Let me grab my binoculars so I can have a look at the whiskers. They also are quite short. Sorry guys, just getting hold of me on the radio. Standing by. FM, myself and Tom here. Mumba Road, if you come west on Mumba and cross that small drainage line 100 meters from junction with Drakensberger, we are then probably about 100 meters to the north of the road on the western side of that drainage line. All 5 animals here lying up. So you can see it definitely looks like those whiskers are a little bit longer. You can see he's got a nice little scar on his lip. And being part of a coalition of 5 male lions, they are likely to have a lot more scratches. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get Abel into the sighting. Oh, we have some action up here. Where he decides, looks like he wants to roar back. That's the guy with the swollen eye. And he's now moving. I think he might be looking for some shade. Difficult to say. Let's see what the other guys do. No, he's popped down. Just decided to look for a new position. I'm just calling Abel on the radio quickly. He is trying to get into this sighting. Just explaining to him where it is. Abel. Negative, just keep coming on Mumba, and I will get your vehicle visual from where I am. So just keep going west on Mumba through the drainage line, and then if you look sort of northeast from there, you'll see our Morva is. So guys, I don't think there's going to be too much more action. It seems like 70% of you out there reckon we should go, unless they're going to start calling again. I don't think they're going to call too much at the moment as it gets hotter. I think they're going to rest up here. But don't worry, I'm sure James or Jamie will be following up on these boys very quickly this sunset safari as well. And I'll definitely be out tracking and hanging around where they are. So we're going to make our way out. I did see some tracks of a big herd of elephants as we were zooming to get to the line, so maybe we'll go have a look for those. And we're going to say goodbye to the Birminghams for now and be back I'll definitely be back later on in the sunset safari. I don't think there's much reason to come back now, although one male has decided to get up again, so we'll follow him. So this could be the beginning of working out who is dominant in this coalition. The fact that he's walking back towards where the other male lions are, and let's go have a look what's happening. Morning. Now, if the others decide to start following that is a very good sign that he is the dominant. He hasn't gone very far, he's just gone to lie down. But that is the sort of boxer-like looking lion who's got that sort of black eye and scratchy nose and a scar behind his ear. Just trying to find a way to get out of here. Just go. Leaving Tom and Abel with 5 Birmingham, my daughters, lying up just to the north of Mumba Road. Cheers, Abel. Enjoy. Okay. What a fantastic start to the day. Well, a lot of questions that we've been asking for a while about what's happening between the Birminghams and the Matimbas have been answered, and answered quite emphatically. The Birminghams are definitely stepping up their game and making a play for the Matimbas concession. So, exciting times ahead. Okay, warming up, losing a layer. Last night was quite a lot warmer over the night than it has been for a while, so I'm hoping the temperatures are going to keep getting warmer and warmer. Oh! There we go. Oh, off it goes. And into the thickets. So while I sort of try get myself prepared, I'm going to ask you, what bird was that? Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about the lion story. I will finish telling it. But what bird was that we just saw? Quite a nice bird. For any new viewers, probably a good one for your bird list. And you can send your answers through to #SafariLive on Twitter or on email to questions@wildearth.tv. Just hang on, guys. Jamie's calling me on the radio. Standing by. Copy will do. So she's joined up with James, and they are still out tracking, seeing what else they can find. And I think the tech geniuses are going at Jigger with a large hammer and just beating it into submission. Hopefully by the sunset safari it shall have been beaten into submission, and we shall have 2 vehicles out again. I'm sure you guys are all completely bored with me by now. Obviously there's a lot of action going on, a lot of movement of lions all around at the moment, and Eric from New Jersey is wondering how that's going to affect the movement of leopard. Well, Eric, that's a fascinating question, and it's probably not going to affect them too much. The lions are going to be very focused on other lions now, so I think the leopards will just continue on as they normally do. So hopefully we can find some leopard tracks. I haven't heard of any leopard tracks. I just did get a message from those of you I know who follow all the different leopards around here. Vula has been spotted to the east of us, quite a long way, sort of to the east of us, so he is still around, although we haven't seen him for quite a while. Oh, we're just gonna, I think, head down towards Twin Dams where those elephants might possibly have come out, and we'll stop there and listen to see if we can hear the elephants, and I'll also finish up that lion story before I forget. Okay. Oh. And off. So, for those of you who might have signed in a little bit late, or you're a new viewer, we have had the most fantastic sunrise safari. We've been watching the beginnings of a male lion battle over territory. On one side, we have the sort of young upstarts, the 5 Birmingham boys, and on the other side, this sort of stately older gentlemen, the 2 Matimba males. 5 versus 2. One would think it was a foregone conclusion that the 5 youngsters would use their sheer force of numbers to bully the older boys. They, however, have not won this round, or it's actually difficult to say. I think it's almost a stalemate, but the Birminghams have definitely won. They are definitely far further south than we've ever seen them before, and scent marking and calling back. The Matimbas towards the end did push them back, and they are now probably about 2 kilometers apart. Bales lying up where we just left them, and the 2 Matimba males lying up to the south of us. So well done to to Anne, Joanne, Linda and Bev, who got that bird spot on. It was most definitely a Birchall's Kukkel. So this looks like a good spot to enjoy the morning sun, possibly see if the fish eagles come to take advantage of all the catfish in the pond behind us, and a good spot to finish off that lion story. So you can see we're sitting next to the drying twin pans, and there's still quite a few sizable catfish in that mud. Also, if we have a look just to the left, there's quite a nice little Natal Franklin heading out onto those mud flats and just drinking out of the tiniest little bit of water that's there. So just a reminder to anyone who's new, you can send us questions, and you can do that by emailing us on questions@wildearth.tv, or you can just use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. But before we get stuck into a bunch more questions, let's just watch this beautiful little Natal Franklin drinking. And you can see there's a grey go-away bird doing the same, trying to find a way in that mud to get to a little spot where it can drink. It would be quite funny if the go-away bird sunk into the mud. So, as we have a look at these birds, I'm just trying to remember exactly where I was in that lion story, and I think it was where my tracker had started shouting at me to shoot, shoot, shoot. So just in case, we'll just do a quick recap in case there are some new viewers here who might have missed the beginning. I was asked about one of my scariest experiences of being a guide, and I decided to, because we were looking for lions at that time, and we found 5 of them so far. I decided to tell you my scariest lion story. And I was in the eastern sections of the Kruger National Park. Sorry guys, we just seem to be having some very strange noises coming out of our technical section. I'm going to keep talking. Jean-Ray is going to jump off and open to make sure it doesn't catch fire or something like that, because that has happened to us before out and drive. We're not sure. There's a really we're going to go across the tech loop quickly so we can work out what's going on. We obviously don't want to lose both vehicles in a day, so we'll be back with you as soon as possible. Nothing too serious. One of the fans just sort of kicked in and made quite a bit of noise, so thankfully we're back with you, and back to that story about those male lions in the Kruger Park. For those of you who might have joined a bit late, I'll give a little recap. So I had a full vehicle of guests, and we found these lion tracks going through into a drainage line, and my tracker, Glass Maramani, and myself jumped off the vehicle. I took my rifle out, and we walked down to the drainage line into these sort of quarry thickets, and we weren't very far from the guests, probably between 60 and 100 meters. But they couldn't see us, and we popped out of these thickets, and we saw the whole mountain pride, which we used to call them, but Nat Geo made a documentary on, called The Mega Pride, an incredibly huge pride of lions on the eastern side of the Kruger National Park. And while we're there, we saw them at about 70-80 meters. Normally at that distance, lions will either get up and move away from you during the day, or they will sort of just watch you and to make sure you don't come closer. And at that time, there was 2 big males, part of the coalition of 4 that used to dominate over that area of the park, and we didn't see them all the time. They used to move quite often between the different prides that they were dominant over, and they also were quite hungry. They hadn't eaten in about a week, and as we popped out and we looked and went, oh, lions! expecting lions to do what lions normally do. Instead of that, the two males got up and came at full speed straight towards us. And my tracker started shouting, "Dubola, Dubola, Dubola, Dubola," and just meant, "Shoot it, shoot it, shoot it." And obviously I don't want to shoot a lion, so I said, no, throw rocks at them. So I loaded my rifle and I dropped to my knee with my tracker standing just behind me. And there's a very simple rule when it comes to tracking lions on foot. Noisy lion, safe lion. Quiet lion, dangerous lion. So if a lion's running at you going and roaring and making lots of noise and growling, he's telling you you're too close, go away. If he's coming quietly, he's serious. And to give you an idea, at 80 meters, a lion travels at about 21 meters per second. So in less than sort of 3 seconds, those lions were 5 meters from us. Unfortunately, they did stop. At this stage, my language might have taken a turn for the south while I was shouting at the top of my lungs at these lions. There's sort of a very Afrikaans term which is used, and it's amazing. All animals through Africa seem to understand Afrikaans very well, and that term is voetsak, which basically means go away, but not rude, but just slightly aggressive and impolite. So it's not actually a bad word. It basically sort of means kick you with your shoe. Foot, as foot, but obviously spelled a bit differently. So I'm screaming, "Voetsak, voetsak, voetsak, voetsak," and I got a rifle up. My tracker is now shouting in Shangaan behind me and picking up rocks and throwing them at the lions. So they stopped at about 5 meters from us, and then sort of for the next 25 minutes was quite an interesting pantomime. So what happens when you work a lot with a tracker, you have an incredible trust in that man, and obviously he has to have incredible trust in you as well, because you are sometimes put into situations exactly like this. So what we do is, he will slip his finger into the back of my belt while I've got the rifle up and I'm concentrating on the lions that are very close. So I mean probably the length of this vehicle from where two huge male lions were and myself and Glass. And so Glass will then lead me backwards so I can concentrate entirely on the animals in front of me, and he's there to make sure I don't trip or fall over, which could really incite that to go from a bad situation to a worse situation. And basically for every half a step we took, they would take half a step. But by this stage, now that they've stopped, every time we took half a step, they went and that would start as "Shut up, go away," and start shouting. So basically the lions were shouting at us and we were shouting at the lions. And as I mentioned before, the guests were not very far away from us, probably about 60 meters, 70 meters, but they could not see this. So now at all this stages, they can hear me shouting at the top of my lungs, using some choice vocabulary, and the lions growling, and then add Glass's shouting in Shangaan. I'm definitely not going to translate what Glass was shouting at that stage, and I will only give you some of the words I said in this position. So obviously quite a lot of the vehicles, we have these earpieces, and they are plugged in, and if you're not quite sure how it all works, it can be quite a complicated thing. So one of the guests reaches down, grabs the radio and goes, oh my god, my ranger has been eaten by a lion." Now obviously that goes out to all the other game drive vehicles. So there was and can you imagine now, we've got a handheld that's with us while we track, but it's on. So we can now hear all the other rangers, Brent come in, Brent or Glass come in, like now they're getting a little bit worried about us. And obviously, in this situation, there's no ways I'm reaching for my radio. I've got my hands on my rifle, and Glass has got his one hand in there, and he's got a large stick that he is also going to throw if they come too close. And we had no hands free to answer the radio for about 20 minutes. So every step we took, if they came forward, and we'd start shouting again. Eventually we managed to create a little bit more distance, about 15 or 20 meters, and the lions lying there going, and then we managed to get sort of behind a big tree, and the situation sort of diffused, and walked back straight to the vehicle. Still, both of us completely calm, fine. I take my rifle, I open the bolt, I take the round out, push it back in, put my finger in, make sure the rifle is no longer alive with a live round in it, close it, put it back into my bag, and then I'll show you exactly what happened to both Glass and myself as we decided to try get back into the vehicle. Glass was getting in from the other side, and now and obviously all the guests are saying lots of things and trying to talk to us, but we're not really in the talking mood yet. And I'm trying to get into the car, and I'm just doing this, and then again, and then my hands were doing this completely, and Glass was doing the exact same thing on the other side, till eventually just went, yo. And then I said, guys, just please wait 2 minutes before you ask us all these questions. It says, first things first, let me tell all the other rangers stations, we have not been eaten. We have located the Mountain Pride. They are lying up XYZ on whatever open area. And now our hearts are still racing, and it's amazing how we're completely calm till we actually the rifle went back into the bag and we tried to get back in the vehicle. And the shakes carried on for quite a while, and there was one guest who had quite a sense of humor. As I said, there was some choice vocabulary flung at those lions, and she sits in the middle there and she goes, well, Brent, I really didn't enjoy the language you were using at those lions. And I literally did one of these until I could see her face, and I realized she was just joking with me. But we then went on to actually watch those lions make a kill later on in the day. But that's definitely my most scary lion experience. And I've probably on foot been charged by lions, sure, somewhere close to 100 times. The reserve where my parents live and whatnot, those lions don't get walked very often, so general rule is they will give you a little charge. They'll run towards you, go, but nothing quite like I experienced from those Lubombo lions in the eastern Kruger. But still, possibly one of my favorite experiences I've ever had in the bush. Anyway, we're going to continue on. I got a little call in my ear from Jamie while we were telling that story, that there is something south and west of us. I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet, so we're going to start slowly making our way into that area. I'm going to get hold of Jenny on the radio now, just to get that full update. Well, a big thank you to everyone out there who likes my stories. I enjoy telling them, and I've been very lucky at the amount of time I spend in the bush. I've got a few more that I'm sure you guys haven't heard, that you will hear over the next couple of months and on Game Drive. Elaine from New York was actually wondering, where has it gone now, if there was a story behind my scarf. My handsome scarf that I was wearing this morning. Nice blue scarf here. It is actually not a scarf. I have decided to use it as a scarf. It is something called a kikoi, which is from East Africa. It is actually traditionally sort of a man's dress, and quite a lot of people in East Africa will actually go out to dinner wearing a nice fancy shirt and a kikoi and a pair of flip-flops. But they are wonderful. You can use them as dresses, you can use them as towels, you can use them as scarves, and I've got quite a collection of these kikois from my time up in East Africa, but I would probably say this is my favorite. I'm not sure why, I just think I like the color, but I do have quite a collection of them, ranging from white and pink to bright red, so a very, very East African thing. Also very handy when you go off to the beach. And I quite often use it when I'm not wearing it around my neck. I use it as a sort of dust cover over my camera. But obviously at this time of the year, being in the dry season, we are very, very dusty, especially when we're moving along these main roads and there are other vehicles driving around us. We do try to avoid the dust as much as possible. Obviously, we have a lot of sensitive equipment on these vehicles, but at this time of the year the dust is just one of those things where we're not going to ever avoid. Let me just, so this, I'm quite certain, is tracks of the Matimba male hairy belly, who was mating with that Styx lioness yesterday, and they were mating on them in the middle of this road. For those who watched yesterday's safaris, how's this one, John? So you can see here, there's the male lion track, and heading straight down towards where that buffalo carcass with the Styx pride was. And I'm quite sure that female, her tracks are somewhere around here, but they've been driven over. This is a very busy road, so just to show you, heading straight that way. And literally the rest of almost every single road in the sort of central areas of Djuma is covered in tracks of the Birmingham boys. So if we do get a chance later, we will try to see those tracks, although I am slowly trying to make my way towards something else. I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. Still keeping a lookout for any leopard tracks we might find. Those elephants didn't seem to have come out of that very thick block where we saw the tracks, so hopefully they'll be out for the sunset safari. So, obviously I've been in the bush for quite a long time, and Jenna, who is new to asking questions, well, welcome Jenna, and we really do appreciate the fact that you are starting to ask questions. Jenna would like to know, why did I become a safari guide, how did I become a safari guide, and how long have I been a safari guide for? Well, Jenna, I pretty much grew up my majority of my life in the bush. There's pretty much probably nothing else I was meant to do in life than be in the bush and look for animals. My family was one of the founding members of a very large safari company called And Beyond. Now it used to be called CC Africa, and specifically a certain part called Pinda Private Game Reserve. And we actually lived on Pinda Private Game Reserve as a child, so I was very lucky. I was there for the first introduction of lion into that part of Zululand. Oh, hello Piggles. Good spot, Jean-Andre. There's a female warthog with two little youngsters. Strangely enough, off they go. Those, I'm pretty sure, are the same three warthog that Jean-Andre and I saw get chased not that long ago by two male cheetah, and it's very, very close to where we were with those cheetah. So I think that's those same three that the cheetah had a dab at, but unfortunately for the cheetah, but fortunately for the Piggles, the cheetah missed. Sorry, Jenna, back to your question. So while growing up there, basically what happened at Pinda is they took over old farmland and converted it back into a wilderness area, and reintroduced all the animals. So I was there when the first elephants arrived, the first lions, the first cheetah, the first rhinos and all that, and was actually fortunate enough as a young
just try and avoid rumble bumps.
that's trying to go off them there. Copy. It was the bumps on this road with this camera. Battery falls out. Sorry about that, guys. We lost a bit of signal there. Really do apologize. So just a quick update. I was saying I was young when new animals arrived on the reserve, so I was very fortunate to be able to sort of witness and be part of all the game capture, even though I was a young boy. So really lucky to be able to witness all those things. And then when my dad decided he'd been sort of developing that area for long enough and time for a new challenge, we moved up to northern Botswana. So my sort of from about 10 or 11 years old through to my early 20s, my family ran 5 safari lodges in Botswana and Zambia, in the Okavango Delta, Kwondo and Victoria Falls region. So my school holidays were spent working in the lodge, or just being in the lodge, going out with the trackers and guides looking for animals. So very lucky there again to be able to spend some time with some incredibly wise men of the bush. And then after that I finished high school, hello Kudus. For some strange reason, because I talk so much, people told me I should definitely study law, and that was possibly one of the worst ideas I have ever had. So I went off to university and studied law. Well, study is a strong word. I dropped out quite quickly and went traveling for a bit. I was in Europe and whatnot, and after a couple of months in Europe, I was, no offense to anyone of you who might live in Europe, but it just wasn't for me. I got quite bored, so I decided to come back to Africa, and I then moved up to northern Zambia, where I started working for a crocodile farm, running the farms, the game farms around the crocodile farm, and islands in Lake Kariba. And then I went and started working for my father again, but this time on a more permanent basis, and that was doing almost everything. Sorry guys, there's a vehicle behind us, so we just need to move along and try to let them get past us. So that was from everything. My first job with my dad was as a baboon minder. And for those of you not sure what a baboon minder is, obviously sometimes monkeys and baboons can be quite a problem in safari lodges, and they break into the kitchens and whatnot. So I was armed with a catapult and paid a whopping $40 a month, and my job was to basically keep the baboons out of the camp. Sorry guys, I'm just going to have a quick word with Doug here. Hello, how's it all? Are you heading off to Northern Link? What's the line up there? Okay, cool, thanks very much. So it looks like Doug and I have the same plan. I'll let him shoot on ahead and we will follow suit slowly, and I'll finish telling you guys the story. So after moving up from baboon minder, I actually worked as a tracker, and there's quite an interesting photograph. Maybe I'll post it on Instagram and Facebook for you guys to see, by an incredible photographer by the name of Christophe Couture, is a very good friend of my dad's, a French guy, but he used to take photographic safaris with guests there. And northern Botswana and the Kwondo concession was the only place in Africa, as far as I know, where you had a local black Botswanan guide and a white English-born tracker. So I worked as a tracker for quite a while before moving up the ranks. I had guided before that in Zambia and whatnot, but working for my dad's company, my dad said, well, the staff will have no respect for you unless you start at the bottom. Hence chasing baboons for 4 months, and then working as a tracker, cleaning cars, packing cooler boxes, and then eventually ending up as sort of assistant lodge manager of the lodges and guiding from time to time. And then the general manager who worked for my dad decided I was a little bit too bush, as northern Botswana is a bit different. So I used to run around in sort of short khaki shorts and a khaki shirt, long hair, and he decided I needed to have a look at some of the other parts of the industry. So I went from a sort of tented camp in northern Botswana, where the focus was almost primarily only on the game viewing. I then went to work at Singita to learn a little bit more about the finer things in life, as well as obviously the game viewing, but really important if I wanted to stay in the sort of safari industry to have a look what the other lodges did. So I was at Singita for a while, and then I was in, after Singita, I left Singita for a little bit, and then I was at Londolozi, and that's actually where I met James, where we worked together. And well, from then I've did quite a lot of private guiding. Oh no, sorry, after Londolozi I was running a concession in southern Tanzania in the Selous Game Reserve, and after that private guiding and consulting, been northern Mozambique, Gabon, Namibia, back to Zambia, and then started dabbling a little bit in the filming industry, and that is sort of what led me to where I'm sitting right now. So officially I probably have been guiding I think now for about 14 years. That is legally. I have illegally guided before I was 18 years old, when we were short-staffed in Botswana a couple of times, so since I was about 16, but legally about 14 years now I've been guiding at some point during that year, or permanently. So almost a little bit longer than half my life, almost half my life, sorry, that I've been guiding, whether it be private guiding or guiding for a lodge, or being based in the bush. But with my upbringing, there was sort of never really a doubt that whatever I did, it would be in the bush. So guys, we're about to arrive at the next surprise. So I wonder if you guys have figured out who or what it is. So I'm just going to be on the radio for a second or two, just to establish exactly where it is. Oh, no need. I can see Doug's car in the road. Okay, so those who were on the sunset safari yesterday would have spent some time with me as and Brian as we followed Shadow and Sindile, and now we're just coming to have a double check up on what happened. Probably not too much of that Dika carcass left from yesterday, but we will come have a look now. And it looks like they have hoisted it up into the tree. That's good news. It doesn't look like they are. Oh no, there is a leopard in the tree with the carcass. We'll let you know which leopard it is. I think it looks like young Sindile. We're just going to move around, or is it Shadow? It looks like possibly. Oh, let's get closer before we start jumping to conclusions. I think it is a Shadow up in that tree. Oh, and there's Sindile just in front of us on the ground. Whoopsie, that's a bit of a big tree. Okay, well, we've come back now to Shadow and Sindile. We're going to show you now. Shadow's up in the tree in a quintessential leopard pose in a nice big marula. And the Dika, not much left, but is up in the tree as well.
Stay calm.
Just a call in on the radio that we are here. Right, Doug's going to do that for me, so not to worry. But isn't that beautiful? Shadow in the quintessential sort of draped over a branch, and then directly below her, lying up at the base of the tree, is young Sindile. So there's Sindile lying up at the base, and Shadow high up in that marilla tree. And then you can see the kill to the right of where Shadow is. Very little meat left, but still some. So guys, you should get some screenshots. Nice light this morning. So even though it is quite late in the morning, there's still beautiful light on the side of Shadow's face as she lies in that perfect pose. So that clicking away is me taking some photographs, and you can see that beautiful light as we're close up on her face, and she's quite tired and her eyes are closing. Got a nice belly full of duiker. So from where we were yesterday, it's probably about 60 meters that they've moved this carcass and put it up in the tree. Even though there are some bigger trees close by, this is probably the one that's got the most comfortable spot for Shadow to lie in while the carcass is in the tree. But as it gets warmer, unless she's feeding, I'm quite sure she'll come down to lie on the ground, as at this time of the year these marula trees offer very, very little shelter from the sun. There are some nice new little green shoots coming out on the marula tree, but obviously not nearly enough to provide nice shade for her. But still quite cool this morning, so she's quite content up in that tree. We can see she's got nice long eyebrows, not particularly quite normal for a leopard. It's just that the light is catching them so wonderfully that they do look sort of quite strange. And this is, strange enough, the first time I've ever seen Shadow hoist. I know Scott saw her hoist a kill quite recently. So interesting. Maybe she is learning from the amount of hyena pressure she's facing, that it is better to hoist her kills and keep them away from the other predators. Tired kitty. So she'll be quite content. Nice big full belly. Still a little bit of meat left, and I'm sure Sindile's had quite a meal of it as well. The interesting thing is that when we found them yesterday, when she was leading Sindile back to this kill, they both had eaten recently, so they were both had nice relatively full bellies. So this is sort of a bonus meal, and like most predators, if there is the opportunity to make a kill even when they are full, they will take that opportunity. They are opportunists. but really wonderful to be able to catch up with these two after spending the majority of yesterday's sunset safari with Shadow and Sindile. Here we go, you can see, I can't see most of the carcass. There's a little bit of meat left on the legs, maybe a little bit around the head. I can just see the ears from where I am. And we noticed yesterday, we watched Sindile pluck quite a lot of fur. It's going to be very difficult to see how much he plucked now with a carcass like that. But he would have only plucked really the areas that he was interested in opening first. And probably around the shoulders a bit and the neck where there is quite a lot of meat. And what they will often do is then now feed from where they've opened. They will feed, and slowly as they feed they might pluck more if necessary. So on a small antelope like this, very little will go to waste, and they will probably be able to crack open the skull of this duiker and feed off the brains, which is obviously quite a nutrient-rich, very fatty part of the animal. On bigger prey, they're probably not going to be able to, but in this situation I'm quite sure they will eventually get to there. I can't see whether the skull is still intact. It is, Jandre is telling me, so the skull is still intact, so I'm quite sure they will get to that at some point in the next day. I reckon in the next 12 hours I think they will probably leave this area because this carcass will be finished. And there we go, you can see that the skull's still there. Female duiker. So, dragged a little bit further from where we had it yesterday, when it was still on the ground, while young Sindile was opening the stomach and feeding off some of those nutrient-rich internal organs. So, I know James is discussed and Scott, and I know myself, but we often find leopards prefer to sleep on the ground. You can see Shadow moving around there. It is quite uncomfortable to sleep on a tree branch like that, even though it looks, you can see how full her belly is and how it's sort of weighing up, and she's trying to get into a comfortable position. Just saying hello to Cedric, who's just arrived.
Hi there.
Yep, keep going.
Oh, this might be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
So Cedric's just arrived. He's come to join us, and this fantastic sighting. Although it seems like Shadow has now found the spot, and she looks a lot more comfortable than she was a little bit there. It seems like she's managed to get most of her fat belly to the left hand side, and so not sort of spread over the whole branch. Now, we've been having quite a few close-ups of paws of different cats recently. So we've had a good look at cheetah claws and paws, and we can see how the claws of the cheetah doesn't fully retract like lion and leopard. And then last night we had a really good look at those lion paws, and now we've got a leopard paw. So in terms of structure, far more similar obviously to a lion, but a lot smaller. The claws on the leopard is probably a lot sharper than on that of a lion, and obviously from climbing up trees all the time, and they will tend to look after their claws quite a lot, so they will clean them, and you'll see them scratching up against trees. All sort of good, healthy maintenance on a very important facet of a leopard's anatomy. And obviously, if we now go through those 3 cats, how incredible is that? We've had 3 of the big cats in the last 3 days. So we've had lion, leopard and cheetah, and with the body structures of all those being slightly different. I mean, we can see that they are definitely cats, but that flat head and sort of rounded face of a cheetah, and that sort of tall, elongated, very slight built body to the leopard, sort of shorter, even though much heavier than a cheetah normally, but they are shorter, squat, far more muscular, that designed to race up trees and be able to climb and have incredible agility once up in the branches of a tree. And to those male lions we saw this morning, and sort of pure power, incredibly heavily muscled. Obviously something that heavy would find it quite difficult to climb a tree, even though they do attempt sometimes to steal leopard kills. But it's amazing how evolution has designed each of these specific cats to fill a niche in the ecosystem. So we see a shadow lying up high, and Jody from New Mexico is wondering, can Sindile climb that high? Jody most definitely, and higher. He's probably been able to climb well beyond that since he was about just over 3 months old. Yesterday on the Sunset Safari we saw him jump for joy into actually quite a difficult tree to climb, a small terminalia or silver cluster leaf, and that would have been far more difficult to climb than this nice big marula tree that a shadow is lying up in at the moment. And you'll probably find he has been up there feeding. He probably just couldn't find a spot comfortable enough to lie, so he's chosen to come down and sleep off his part of the meal on the ground. And Sindile is developing quite an interesting character so far. Quite a playful young male leopard, and he has given us on Safari Live such wonderful hours of entertainment. I can remember watching him chase little tiny cisticulars from tree to tree. We've seen him try grab francolin, we've seen him try grab dwarf mongoose, so he is proving to be a really entertaining young male leopard that I look forward to continue following his development. So over the last month or two, we've been listening to quite a lot of territorial disputes between a lion and a leopard. We had Imvula and Tingana calling incessantly at each other while after live drives, but on Djuma, and we followed up on those tracks. And then recently Scott was with Tingana and the Anderson male doing the same, and then just this morning we've had those Birmingham males calling at the Matimbas and the Matimbas responding. So Dr. Devi is wondering, with all this vocalization, how does it affect the other species or other animals of the same species in the area while the males are going at it, so to speak? Well, Dr. Devi, I think this morning will be very interesting to find out whether the Styx Pride actually stayed in that position on the buffalo, even though the Birminghams were approaching, or did they run off until the Matimbas sort of saw the Birminghams off? And that'll be impossible to say till I can find out after drive today. But I think in that case, the Styx girls might have moved off that buffalo carcass with the 3 cubs to try keep them safe and try avoid any confrontation with the Birminghams, and that obviously they would have picked up from the audio of those males coming in. And we've actually been speculating quite a lot with Shadow. She had 2 kills. One she took Sindile to, and one she didn't. She ate it by herself, and that was very close to where the Anderson male was. So was she feeding off that kill and not taking young Sindile there to possibly protect him from the Anderson male, who would definitely try kill young Sindile? So very interesting at the moment with what's going on. And we have tended to find Shadow quite a lot further south, further north into what has been more traditionally Karula's home range, as the Anderson male has pushed in. Now, as a female leopard, a new male pushing into the area is not the end of the world, unless you still have a dependent. And young Sindile is probably just about around a year now, so still very much dependent on his mother, and probably will be for another year to a year and a half in some occasions. So she will be obviously trying to avoid all areas of the Anderson that the Anderson male is moving into, because he will definitely take offense to young Sindile, and doing so trying to get her to come into estrus and mate, and her next set of cubs will be sired by him. So we've got quite an interesting, well, just checking what she's looking at quickly, but as we look at Shadow there, Tyler's wondering how strong is a leopard's jaws in comparison to the other big cats, crocodiles and hyenas. Well, I would say out of the big cats that we get here, they are number 2. Lions obviously have by far the strongest jaws, followed by leopard, then cheetah being at the bottom. In terms, if we add crocodiles and hyenas to them, both crocodile or hyena will even be stronger than a lion, and so will a crocodile. So in terms of all of that, leopard will be second last, but in terms of the cats, it's right in the middle. But hyena being number 1, crocodile 2, lion 3, leopard 4, cheetah 5. So, great news everyone. Alex and Eugene, the technological geniuses that understand things like maths that I have no idea about, have managed to get Jigger up and running. So we're going to cross across to Jamie quickly to see what she's been up to this morning.
What a fantastic way to spend a morning. A morning that didn't go entirely according to plan. So guys, I haven't just been sitting down while Brent's been doing all the hard work. We did rush out this morning with fantastic plans of what it was we were going to do. Brent was going to go and follow one lion call. I was going to go and follow the other. And we were going to race across to the Matimbas so that we could have both cameras on both sides. Best laid plans of mice and men. Unfortunately, Jigga was having some serious signal issues. So Brian and I spent a lot of time racing backwards and forwards between different places, trying to get it all sorted. And then when we were finally up and running, we went racing back to where the Matimbas had been seen crossing north across Djuma's boundary, and they went south again. So we sat for a while at the corner looking at their tracks crossing, and then we moved on and we went to go and see what else we could see. Heard about the update of Shadow and Sindile. But what an absolutely exciting morning that you guys have had. I am very jealous. We were going to be part of that whole business, but unfortunately that was just not to be. But some very, very exciting times lie ahead for all of us in this area. The Birmingham boys really starting to push their luck, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen. The Matimbas still showing a bit of spunk. They're still showing their dominance and pushing them back away from that buffalo kill. And the Nkuhuma's dashing off to the east away from all of the action. It's going to be a very interesting time ahead, and not just for the lions but for all of the animals in this area. The leopards are going to start hiding away from all of the lion activity, although we did see Shadow and Sindile very, very close to those mating lions. So hopefully not too negative an effect on our leopard sightings, but definitely some exciting times. So for Brian and myself, quite an interesting morning, and I thank him for keeping me company on our tracking missions and for hanging on for dear life on the back as we raced around the reserve. And I thank all of you guys for joining us for such an exciting sunrise safari. I do hope that you had fun with Brent. Fear not, we will be back up and running this afternoon, so we will be around. So we will see you for the sunset safari. Back to Brent for the last few minutes of an exciting sunrise safari.
Welcome back, everyone. That's fantastic that the other vehicle's up and running, so we should have 2 vehicles up for the sunset safari. And that's really, really good news, because we do have such fantastic sightings going on at the moment. We've got the 5 Birmingham males, we've got Shadow and Sindile, so definitely much better to have 2 vehicles than 1. And we do apologize for the difficulties, but thankfully it is up and running again. So guys, as we come to the closing of drive, it's been such a fascinating and interesting drive today that we're just going to take a few minutes longer to just chat about what's been happening, specifically with those lions. We've had such incredible movement between the Birmingham males and the Matimbas. And I just had a chat to Cedric while you guys were with Jamie, who was at that buffalo kill where the sticks and cubs were, and the Matimba males. So what he's told me is that when the Birminghams first came across and they were calling and calling, the 3 cubs actually got up and ran away. And then, because the Matimbas, remember, ran away from the Birminghams initially, and so the cubs then ran away. The lionesses stayed feeding on that buffalo carcass, and then all of a sudden, when the Matimbas decided to sort of roar back and run towards the Birminghams, and the Birminghams turned around and ran away, about an hour after that, the cubs did actually come back onto the onto the buffalo carcass. So they're all fine and safe and feeding on that buffalo. So that's really good news. And thanks a lot to Sid for keeping us updated with what was going on there. But as I said, great news that we have both vehicles up and running again. So we'll have 2 vehicles out on the Sunset Safari, and I'm quite sure someone will definitely be going to follow up on those lines, and someone I'm sure will come have a look at this magnificent sighting we have right here with Shadow and Sindile. At the moment, Sindile lying down at the base of the tree, and Shadow lying up in the tree. Very little left of the Dyker carcass, but it has been a spectacular morning, and what a fascinating time to be in the Sabi Sands, and specifically in this area of the Sabi Sands. So we're going to have a lot of animal movement, specifically with those lions now. The Birminghams have laid down a challenge, and it'll be interesting to see how the Matimbas respond. Oh, Sindile's up. Maybe he'll climb the tree. Or not. So guys, we're going to leave you with views of Shadow for the last couple of seconds of drive. Thanks very much for joining us. It's been exciting. Thanks very much for your questions. We really do appreciate them, and we love being able to share our passion and knowledge about the African bush with you wherever you might be in the world. So hopefully we'll see you all for the Sunset Safari. It'll be the double J's, James and Jamie, and I'll be out on tracking team. So have a wonderful rest of your day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you on the Sunset Safari.